What has to be done for you to beat that case? You shot an underage individual. You a grown man and your son chasing him down the street, and from what we understand, it's over water. No way.
This is one of those cases that I haven't seen exactly what happened, but it sounds horrible. It sounds almost unbelievable. I'm like, yo, I need more information. Is it just as it seems? Don't expect no jokes in this one.
People are reacting to the store owner who was just found not guilty after gunning down a 14-year-old over a bottle of water. That's right, y'all. Now, for those who may not know, this incident took place in South Carolina, okay? A lot of people right now are talking about the video showing the incident that took place. Again, this video showed young 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack-Belton entering the store, okay? It was at that moment you could see the mother in the store immediately profile young Cyrus as he's walking throughout the store, deciding on what he wanted to purchase, okay? At some point, he decides, you know what? I don't even want to purchase anything. Puts the object back in the fridge, and as he decides, you know, I'm going to leave the store, assuming that he's picking up on his energy, because again, you can see on the video, the mother is essentially stalking him as he's walking throughout the store. So before he leaves, the mother says, hey, are you going to put that bottle back? He looks at it confused because, again, he already did that. He walks out the store. You see young Cyrus walking across the parking lot. And this is where it gets crazy, because now the father and son took it upon themselves to grab a firearm and chase after young 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack-Belton. Okay? A lot of people not understanding why at that point is the aggressor, who was the father and son, given the benefit of the doubt. Now, they say that young Cyrus had a firearm the moment they ran down on him. Now, all of this was not captured on video, and this is what makes the whole situation tricky, because it was a blind spot. So the actual shooting, you know, it's basically the word of the father and son versus young Cyrus. Okay, there was no video surveillance showing young.
How did they get to chase him down? It's not even like they did it inside the store, which would be equally insane, but how do they get to chase him down? I don't see how he gets to hunt him down.
There's video where the young man came in there to get some water. They were like following him around. If you look at the video, it's like, apparently people in the area were saying that this is how this man owns the store. They've always complained about him or something. Anyway, so the young man puts the waters back, though. He doesn't even take them. So he walks out, and the man and his older son, the owner's son, follow him. And they were claiming in the case that he had turned around and allegedly pulled a gun out on him, and that the owner was saying he then tried to protect his son, and that's when he shot at the young man. But he was shot in the back. And other people are saying they didn't see a gun. So anyway, he was just found not guilty.
Well, I mean, I think it's a trend going on where young men get shot by people, young black men get shot by people in different races, and most of the times they beat it. I think it's a trend going on.
Yeah, and
I mean,
young man can.
You don't shoot nobody over no fucking water.
And that he put back. He didn't even have it. He actually put it back. His name was Cyrus Carmack-Belton. So.
Well, you know, I'm saying, like,
the young man's name.
You heard what Craig said, right?
Mm-hmm.
God damn it, you don't shoot nobody over no bottle of water.
Thank you.
Even though,
right?
Even though I chased him.
Yeah, they were both chasing him.
He followed him down the street. So you got away with shooting somebody that wasn't even in your store.
Well, they're not giving up. So the attorney, Todd Rutherford, and he's a tough one, brother. He gave his.
Why is he tough? He lost.
No, he lost, but he's going back after him, though. He's like, they're not giving up.
I'm going to get some more money.
Oh, no, he's not the prosecutor. I'm sorry, my bad. He represents the Carmack-Belton family, the young man's family, and he said that he's very disappointed in the verdict, and he's already planning on filing a civil lawsuit against the Chow family. So
I just feel like there's a lot of chaos in the world where young people are not respectful to their elders. I feel like people who are of different races feel like they can get away with murdering a young black male. This is what I feel. So to fix all this, what do we do? What do we do to fix this?
It's only one way. Well, I mean, you know, but ain't nobody gonna do that. Ain't nobody got the heart to do what needs to be done.
Yes.
You know
I mean, they show They show one side of everything a lot of times. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I will tell you, there's just too many cases where, did this young boy have a gun?
They say he stole from the shop.
Yeah, but I don't believe that they actually proved that he had a gun. And they were claiming that he threw it or he tossed it as he was running. I mean, come on.
Okay, but if the young man didn't pull out a gun, do you know if it was legal to shoot somebody who don't pull out a gun in a lot of these states,
right,
how many people would be dead?
Mm-hmm.
We got to look deeper into this. This is crazy. Cyrus Carmack. I'm sorry, y'all. I know it's supposed to be like a comedy show and stuff, but this is crazy. Okay, so we're going to look into both of the closing arguments. This first one is from the state, the people that are trying to lock up the shop owner, and the second one will be by the defense, the man defending the shop owner. Here we go.
Counsel, Mr. Kent, Mr. McCullough, Mr. Swirling. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what is the value of a human life? To grieving parents who've lost a 14-year-old to senseless acts of violence, a human life is priceless. But on May 28, 2023, Chow, the defendant in this case, determined that Cyrus Carmack-Belton's life was worth less than 4 bottles of water. I say this because in May of 2023, Chow, the defendant in this case, was the owner of a convenience store and gas station on the corner of Park Lane and Springtree here in Columbia. His wife was working that evening. She was a co-owner, and their adult son was working there as well that particular evening. It was around 8 o'clock or so p.m. that Cyrus Carmack-Belton, a 14-year-old, walked into that store. And he had on a red hoodie with a small pocket in the front. He was carrying a black backpack. We know this to be true because the defendant in this case, Chow, had an intricate camera system that captured almost every interaction within that store and multiple camera angles. He also had camera angles outside of the store on the premises.
This is why I don't respect black street culture. You know why? Because Mr. Chow is going to have a happy, fruitful rest of forever. And we are going to be policing ourselves, talking about stop snitching. Mr. Chow's going to live happily ever after. And so many more. What was this young man's name? So many more young lives like this will be lost. Not only by random shop owners, but more importantly, by ourselves. This is sad. This is crazy. It's gotta be.
The store and immediately adjacent.
I hope y'all heard what I said earlier. That's why I don't respect him. George Zimmerman doing better than ever. I seen him get fatter. He sold the weapon. But we riding on each other. Can't respect these dudes, you know.
So you could see what happened at the beginning of Spring Street as his property ended. So Cyrus walked into that store, red hoodie, small pocket in the front, black backpack, and he walks in and he immediately is asked by the co-owner, Alice Chow, to remove his backpack. That's store policy. Cyrus complies, does exactly what he's asked to do. He puts that backpack on the cooler and begins to walk around and browse throughout the store. He goes aisle to aisle, browsing, looking around, looking at the candy, looking at the waters, looking at other things in the store. And Alice is directly behind him watching everything that he does. When he walks to the front of the store, she watches. When he walks to the side of the store, she watches. She leans against post and watches everything that he's doing as he walks through that store. Their adult son Andy is working the counter, and he's watching as well. And as other customers come in to buy things, he'll service them and continue to watch Cyrus as he walks through the store. Finally, Cyrus walks to that back right corner of the store. And again, we know this to be true because of that intricate camera system that Mr. Chow installed. He walks to the back. He opens a water cooler, leans the water cooler against his left shoulder, and takes out 4 bottles of water. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And after a second, he pauses and methodically puts all 4 water bottles back into that cooler. 1, 2, 3, and 4. He closes the cooler and begins to walk back towards the front of the store. And it's at that point that the verbal confrontation begins. And I say confrontation because Cyrus said nothing. The co-owner of the store, Alice Chow, asked if he needed help and eventually accused him of stealing water. Told him to empty his pockets. The adult son, Andy, who was watching, said the same thing. You took some water. Give us back the water. Cyrus said, I took nothing. I didn't take anything. I didn't take anything. And they continued to verbally attack him, accusing him of stealing water. Interestingly enough, if you look at that intricate camera system, Cyrus is telling the truth. He took nothing from that store that day. As he tried to walk out of the store, they continued to verbally harass him to the point where he took his backpack and calmly walked out of the store. Again, we know that to be true because of that intricate camera system that Rick Chow installed. And as he walks toward that door, the co-owner, Alice Chow, says something in Cantonese that makes her son run around the counter towards Cyrus. And then Rick Chow, the defendant in this case, comes from out of an office in the convenience store, armed with a .45 caliber Glock pistol, and follows Cyrus out of that store. Cyrus walks out of the store, takes a right, slowly, and hears them yelling, running after him, turns to see, and again, the camera system shows these things, and he takes off running. Cyrus tries to run through the parking lot to the point to where he runs out of his Air Force One Nike shoe. Runs out of his shoe. Doesn't turn around to pick it up because you have an adult male running behind you with a .45 caliber Glock pistol who has falsely accused you of stealing. So he runs. He drops 2 cell phones out of his pocket. We know this to be true because there are witnesses who we expect you'll hear from who'll talk about how they had to throw on brakes to keep from hitting them as they ran across traffic. We know this to be true because of that intricate camera system that he installed. He drops 2 cell phones. One belonged to him, one to his mother. Doesn't turn around to pick up one of those cell phones. Continues to run, falls down, gets back up running, falls again, busts his shin, drops the backpack, keeps running.
Still hasn't dropped any water. They are chasing him.
In total, Rick Chow and his son chased Cyrus Carmack-Belton over 130 yards off of their property onto a public road in Columbia, South Carolina. And eventually, after Cyrus fell a couple of times, Rick Chow fired the fatal shot, which ended his life.
Crazy.
Folks, 130 yards is a football field. No, in fact, it's a football field.
Plus 30 yards.
Goalpost to goalpost plus 10 yards.
It's 130.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm Byron Gibson, the 5th Judicial Circuit Solicitor, and I, along with Dale Scott, Stephanie Taylor, and Weston Leifer, represent the state of South Carolina.
God damn, yo. I gotta see this.
I remember growing.
This is the crazy, y'all. This is the defense, his closing arguments.
I'm watching shows with my father. And I'm old enough to date myself a little bit that we would actually listen to radio shows. And one of the radio shows that we would listen to quite often is a guy named Holcomb. And what he would do is he would tell stories. And in telling stories, what he would do is tell a story that he thought that everybody actually knew. He would tell a story and he would give details of a story that he thought that everybody actually knew already. And he would tell it, and he would tell it in his interesting way, but what he would do is intentionally leave out parts of the story so that people would be a little confused, because they'd heard the part of the story that they thought that they knew, but he would leave parts out. And then he would take this huge pause after he was done and everybody think it was over, and then he would say this famous line. He would say, "And now it's time for the rest of the story." And then he would spend the rest of the show telling the listener the rest of the story that they did not know. He would do this because he understood people. He understood that we are a generation of people who simply listen to headlines, listen to flashy things, and don't hear the rest of the story. He understood that if he could tell just small parts of the story in the way that people thought that they understood them and didn't hear the rest of the story, then they would believe things one certain way. And the way that he did it was fascinating. It was interesting. People started to understand that that's the way we have to start listening. Because if we only hear part of the story, then we can never get to the truth. And so as we sit here and get ready for our closing argument, all we're going to do now is tell you the rest of the story. I will tell you wholeheartedly, and this might come across as a shock, I agree with some of the stuff that the state of South Carolina said. When they got done with their closing argument, folks next to me said, "Do you want to take that dollar down?" And I said, "No." Because let me tell you with unabashed honesty, they are 1,000% right about the following statement. If Rick Chow executed a human being over a $1 bottle of water, enjoy hell. Let's make that clear. If Rick Chow shot a man in the back stealing $1 bottle of water from his store,
Not a man, a child.
you do what you will. Because there's nothing to justify this back and forth. Was he right? Was he wrong? It doesn't matter. Taking a human life over a bottle of water is absolutely ridiculous. It is wrong under any way that you could possibly look at it. And that's why the state has gone out of their way to put this $1 bottle of water up, to put this picture up, because they want you to believe that this is what this case is about. The rest of the story. It has nothing to do with this water. It doesn't. Because if that was what it was about, this wouldn't be a complicated case. As we sit in front of you, the things that we have to talk about is we have to break down everything that we have watched in this case. And we need to break down what the state of South Carolina has presented to you. And as we break it down, we can
This nigga's like an evil Les Brown.
break it down inside of 3 classifications of what they've put on the stand. They put on what they call eyewitnesses. They put on investigators. And they put on experts. You remember? Those are the 3 things that they have given us. So first, let's talk about the eyewitnesses. And the reason I want to talk about the eyewitnesses first is, remember, and I wrote down a quote that the state said, "Cameras don't lie." For 17 seconds, you could have played the camera. For 17 minutes, you could have played these cameras. If you remember, these witnesses got on the stand, they sat in front of you, and I asked them questions. They looked directly at you. They were talking about what they remembered. They were talking about their memories and how important that is. And then I started asking them questions from right there. You remember? I said, "No, I'm not trying to be rude, but I remember you talking to 911. Do you remember that?" "Yeah." "And you said something different to the 911 tape that you're saying right here today." I asked another person, "Isn't it true that we don't interview witnesses together because they can get their stories together and their brains could get something that didn't really happen?" "Yeah." "And that's on video, correct?" Cameras don't lie. "And they called 911, and in the 911 call they said they didn't see anything, correct?" Cameras don't lie. "But don't you remember," and I asked one of the witnesses, "isn't it true that you told them something and they said that was completely impossible?" "Well, yeah." "And then they've met with you, they've talked to you, they've interviewed you and put you on the stand and you told something different." Cameras don't lie. So why are we sitting here and not watching those videos? Why didn't the state give you the 911 calls? Why didn't they give you the videos? Why didn't they give you the information? If cameras don't lie. The rest of the story. I talked to one of the investigators and officers as he took the stand. Remember, we asked him, what is important as an investigator? It's important to get the facts, it is important to get the information, it's important to get the evidence as close to the incident as possible. So we can do what? Remember the question I asked him? So we can give all the information to the jury.
This dude ain't saying nothing, yo. I'm trying to give him a fair shot and consider myself as if I was the 13th juror. But start talking.
The rest of the story. Because what we don't want to do is subject to put our emotions in there, our personal beliefs, our subjective decisions as to what's happened.
What are we missing?
For some reason, the state of South Carolina doesn't want to give it to you. One of the witnesses took the stand, if you remember correctly, Detective English took the stand, remember? One of the first ones they put on. And they put the videos up on all of these screens, all this technology that the state of South Carolina has. And they put up all of it. And one of the clips they put up was of Rick Chow's statement. You remember? And they played it, and it said, my son saw, I didn't initially see my son that he had a gun, so when I looked at his hand, and then what did that officer do? He just walked away. We knew there was a second part of the video. Cameras don't lie. It would have taken how long was the quote? 17 seconds to play it. Cameras don't lie. And what was the next question from the state of South Carolina?
They shot him. He wasn't even at their place anymore. They chased him a football field away. I didn't know you can do that. Didn't the feds just lock up NBA Ben 10? Not NBA, All-Star JR? For the same situation? Because they said he retaliated too much? Yo, this is crazy. This is crazy. And this dude right here, it's a special spot for him.
Isn't it true he didn't tell you on that scene blank? Cameras don't lie. So we literally had to make sure you knew the rest of the story. And what did we do to tell you the rest of the story? We brought that other officer on to tell the rest of the story. And you remember, it went right together. The rest of that statement. My son saw, I didn't see it initially, my son alerted me that he had a gun. So when I'm going to go talk to his son, that's when he walked away. And then the statement kept going.
Let's say he did have a gun. Although I'm sure no gun was recovered because they would have said that. That would be all we were talking about. But let's say he did have a gun. Had you shot him inside the store, that would make sense. Even, let's say, if you shot him right outside the store. Bam, bam, get out of here. But to hunt him down and now become a vigilante and shoot him in the back, the police don't do that. The police not supposed to shoot you in your back. What's happening? This is why I don't cover stuff like this, man. And watch, nobody ain't gonna watch this video. Why don't y'all talk about the real issues and you forget it? Because you want to fight. You want to slap this dude right here, yo.
And he actually had a handgun in his hand. The rest of the story.
Slick talking ass.
He got up running, then my son yelled, he's got a gun. So when I watched, there was a gun in his hand. That would be some important information for the state of South Carolina to tell you.
Where'd the gun go?
But they needed to be about $1. They need to scare you. They need to make you afraid. They made you think the great Rick Chow, this evil human being over here, killed a man over $1. And that is disgusting, that is awful, that is abhorrent, but that's not what happened. The rest of the story. We don't want to tell you the rest of the story because if you hear it, then you get to make an intelligent decision, and we don't want you to make an intelligent decision. We don't want you to hear the 911 calls. We don't want you to watch the videos. We don't want you to hear what Rick said at that moment, at that time, without a lawyer, without anyone telling him what to say or do. We had to play those.
Even if he said and thought that, how about the pursuit? The crime didn't happen in the store. It happened 100-something yards away. Nobody fears for their life and chases. Who would you chase Jason down? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's fear. Freddy Krueger's outside. Are you going to chase him down? If you were truly in fear for your life? Come on, man. This is crazy.
the rest of the story.
I need more than
And
this.
as we get in there and we listen to this and we go through all of this information, it becomes incredibly important. We then had investigators take the stand. You remember the questions I asked of the investigators and why they were so important. The state of South Carolina, for you to make a decision, has come in front of you and said, with witnesses on the stand, guns aren't that bad. 14-year-old kids have guns all the time. And they had witnesses literally with their hands on the Bible looking at you, talking about, guns are prevalent, it's not that big of a deal. That was the testimony. I didn't make that up. That was the testimony that they submitted. Do I think they believe any part of that? Not a line of that. But they have emotion. They're upset. And they want you to believe it's about a bottle of water. It's not the rest of the story. And then there was an expert who took the stand. You remember? I asked her a very directly question. I had her sit right here. She stood in front of you as if she was Rick Chow. And I showed her what we said Mr. Belton could have been doing. And what did she say? Yeah, that's possible. The rest of the story. She described the bullet path. Back to front, right to left, slightly upward. The rest of the story. We got to avoid all of that because that changes our narrative. So
you're saying he turned around right at the exact time that he was getting shot perfectly in the back? It was really...
go into what they did present. Now let's talk about the part of the case that we're all wondering about, the thing that everybody's there, and if it's in your gut, it should be in everybody's gut. And they spent their entire case. Their case was a day and a half, and most of it they spent it on one part. The chase. The chase. The chase. They shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have done it. You remember one of the witnesses, the investigator, got on the stand, and I had to ask him the question, is there anything illegal about that? No, sir. But that's what they're...
What?
About? Well, common sense. We don't want you to do it. But it's not illegal.
What?
That's an important distinction to know. This is a store. The testimony was they've owned it for 11 years. Margins are small. You've seen the wall of shame. People have shoplifted. People have stolen. Chased them. I've been stolen from. I chased the people to Georgia, flat out. It's their property. Their emotional.
No. Not the chase that's illegal. The chase down and shooting someone and then taking lethal action and then trying to yell self-defense or something to that nature. That's the part we're asking. Of course, chasing somebody exactly isn't illegal. I mean, I guess there's no crime chasing. You can't lock somebody for chasing.
And that's why he ran after her. The question isn't, do you think it's right? The question is it legal? And then you go to the second part of it's illegal. If it was illegal, don't you remember Andy Chow sat up there on the stand? And Mr. Scott got right in his face, and he was yelling at him, and he was going angry with him, and he was saying everything to him. But the one thing he didn't say to him is, and you have been charged with following this young man out of the store. And you are criminally liable for following this young man out of the store. Because he's not. He's not liable. He's not criminally liable. He has not been charged. And he did not do anything wrong. But when you Monday morning quarterback and come back and look at the situation and say, well, why? You know what? They could have done this. They could have done this. They could have done this. Because that's what the state's case is. Think about it.
So he's saying that the chase was not technically illegal. But once you chase the person down, now you thought you were in danger once you encountered the person you were chasing. And then you had to shoot. Wow. South Carolina, yo, what's going on, man? We going backwards? When were these laws written?
Did you hear throughout the course of this trial the great state of South Carolina say the following sentence? They could have done this, they could have done this, they could have done this, they could have done this. They don't have evidence to offer, but they have fear, passion, emotion, and they want to get that out of you. They want that fear, passion, and emotion, and for you to ignore the law. We do not get to take the law the way that we want it to be. We take the law the way that it is. Let me tell you that again. We don't get to take the way that we want it to be. The solicitor can't say, well, I want it to be illegal for a shopkeeper to go out of the store. Shopkeepers should not be able to follow somebody. That's what I want. Andy, that's what I want.
Even if you follow them, okay, you follow them. Are you then able to take lethal force? That's the part I don't understand. If I thought somebody stole from me, I might follow them. That's a possibility, but I ain't gonna, with a gun?
That's not the law. And then there's one last part that he, for some reason, has ignored. Let's say one of you, just one of you for argument's sake, are sitting back there and you say, you know.
So if that's true, why call the police ever? When there's ever a problem or somebody do anything to you, why call the police? You'll just get your gun and run down, chase them, shoot them in the back. Why do we even have police? If you could chase whoever you want, why do we call the police to chase people when I could just chase them? It's not technically wrong. It's not technically... This is freaking insane, yo.
I think they are at fault in bringing on the difficulty. It may not be legal. It may not be illegal, but I just don't like the fact that they follow him for 130 yards. I do not like the 130 yards. I do not like the 130 yards. Well, the judge is going to charge you on something on the law, and it's called withdrawal. Let me explain that concept to you. Let's say one of you start a fight. Let's say I start a fight with Mr. Scott. And let's say I go up to him and I say, I'm going to get you. I'm going to take you down. I'm going to hurt you. And I start the fight and I come at him. And I'm about to hurt him. And then all of a sudden I said, you know what? This is stupid. I don't want to do this anymore. And I turn around and I'm like, I'm over this. And Mr. Scott brings a knife and comes out. Well, according to their theory, I got to let him stab me. According to their theory, I got to let him hurt me, even though that I have withdrawn. Well, that is the law of withdrawal. If an individual says, if they withdraw by words or actions, their right to self-defense is back on the line. The rest of the story. And don't take my word for it, the judge is going to instruct you on the law, and that's one of the things he's going to talk about. So when we talk about the chase...
So when did they withdraw? In their words or actions? They're chasing him. You said once someone withdraws, your right to self-defense is back in action. But they just thought they ran up to him and put their gun away and then pulled it back out and shot? Like, what's going on?
Talk about why did they run out of the store. When we talk about they shouldn't have gone out of the store, as I've told you, you legally have a right. The officer, their own witnesses told you, they legally have a right. This officer with 25 years of experience, dealt with shoplifting, dealt with this, and says, we prefer you not, common sense. But then there's a last part of that wasn't on their little pretty board, the right to withdraw. When Andy Chow testified, when he told you what happened, he said, I was following him. I was running after him. He fell. When he got up, he had this gun, and then I went this way.
Fuck out of here, nigga. I can't with this shit, yo. I can't with this shit. And that's what that's the story. Yo, this is insane, yo.
And as his hands are up, remember I asked him directly, the gun was still pointed at you? Yes, sir. You were looking directly at the barrel? Yes, sir. And then what did you hear? I said to my dad, he's got a gun. He's got a gun. And then what did he say his dad said?
I got it.
Drop it. Stop. Drop it. No. There's nothing more withdrawal than that. When he's yelling, stop it. Drop. No.
And this part wasn't filmed. We gotta just go by their freaking word. Yo, this shit is heartbreaking, yo.
That's a withdrawal. That's saying, look, man, you got it. You got the gun. I'm good. They love to say that everything could have stopped. He could have put the gun down. But we have to ignore that because that's not part of their story. We cannot tell that part of the story because
But he didn't have a gun, correct? Did he have a gun or no?
it's not necessary. And when we tell this story, you might look at me and say, oh, Mr. Kent, that's some creative lawyering. No. That's why we played the 911 tape. And in the 911 tape you heard. That's why we played Andy Chow's interviews. Didn't hide it. What do you say? Takes only 17 seconds. What was the other quote? Better than any eyewitness ever could would have been a video. That's what the state said. Better than any eyewitness ever could. So why wouldn't he play it? Because it would have been better than any eyewitness ever could. Now let's talk about the fact we talked about the story and the things that
It's all people talking about how brilliant of a lawyer he is.
happened inside of the store. And there might be questions, why did you guys keep bringing these things up? If you remember, I had the officer on the stand. Great officer, great investigator, great person. But I had him on the stand, and one, I was talking about firearms and 14-year-olds, and he went back and forth because I don't think they wanted to admit that this is a problem. But the thing that was the most important is I asked him about suspicious behavior. Did something look weird to you when you went back? And he didn't want to admit it. But use your own common sense on that. I asked him the direct question, looking back through your investigation, as you have gone through and looked at the full file and looked at everything now, do you find it weird, odd, suspicious that a young man would go into a gas station without any money, with an empty book bag, bullet in the chamber, and then was looking like he was taking stuff off of the counter? I don't find that.
So he did have a gun. He did have a gun on him. This is freaking crazy. He said it was a bullet in the chamber?
And then was looking like he was taking stuff off of the counter. Any money, with an empty book bag, bullet in the chamber, and then was looking like he was taking stuff off of the counter. I don't find that suspicious. I find that answer suspicious. The reason we brought this up is not to suggest I don't know what Cyrus was doing. I don't. But use your common sense and ask yourself, that does seem strange. And the reason we bring that up is that would explain why Andy, who was sitting at the front counter, looking back, is watching this and going, he's acting strange. He's acting weird. He's putting water back up, water back up, water back up. It looked weird to me. And then he came up to the counter with his hands in his hoodie, and there looked to be something heavy in there. I didn't know what it was, and so I asked him, and he did this, and it looked like there was something heavy in there. It was the gun! Did Andy know it was the gun? Absolutely not.
They didn't say that first. I didn't know that. They should have said that first. Yo, this is screwed up in every way, yo.
But you can understand why Andy would have said there's something strange going on. His behavior, something in the pocket, going weird with the water, that's what was strange. So that is to explain why Andy made the unilateral decision that there was something strange going on here. And then Andy made the decision to follow him out of the store, chase him, run after him, whatever you want to call it, but he made that decision based upon a reasonable belief of what anybody would have thought something strange here. I asked the officer,
I didn't know he had a gun, yo.
again, about the suspicious behavior. That 24 hours, less than 24 hours before he came into the store, he posted this on his social media. Do you remember? I asked him about it. And not only was it this was a clip from a video in which he was pointing a gun at a screen with a laser and a flashing light on his Instagram story. You put all that together, you can explain that someone's behavior would have been a little strange. And he would have had that firearm with the light on it. It makes sense. And so that explains why Andy, and don't forget, when the officer was talking and asking questions and he went back to the back to look at that video surveillance that they keep talking about. Do you remember how many times? He's like, I had to look at it 2-3 times. I had to zoom in on it. He had the technology to see what was taken. Andy had one time. And from his vantage point, something was going on. And so he followed him out the store. He ran after the store, whatever you want to call it. The rest of the story. And then Andy testified that he threw stuff out of his pocket. You remember Mr. Scott said, you did not testify to that. I had to show 4 different times where Andy said he was throwing something out of his pockets. 4. And so he went after him. He followed him. He chased him. He's going after him the entire way. And they're right. He fell. He fell hard. And now they're saying, well, he would have naturally picked up his gun. That's why this is important. He's running. Or let's put it this way. Let's try 2. 1, he's running and it's in his pouch. He falls. The light goes off, but the gun stays in the pouch, I guess. Or the gun comes out, I guess. I don't know. But he picks it up. And that's what they just testified to. He picked it up. The judge is going to tell you something else about defense of others. You have the right to act on appearances. And you have the right to be wrong. He's going to tell you that. They just told you. He was running, he fell down, and he picked up a firearm. All this stuff, all this back and forth, he 100%, from the state's mouth, he picked up that firearm. You have a right to be wrong. You have a right to act on appearances. And that's what the judge is going to tell you the law is. And that's from the state. I want you to think about that again. Gets up. Medical examiner, shot, back, angle, pointed. Right to act on appearances. Rest of the story. Or take it another situation. What makes sense? Maybe the light's on the fire. And then as he's running, when he falls, that's when it comes off. We don't know. Because the burden of proof is on the state to prove what happened in that situation. And they've just admitted the one thing we know for a fact is he picked up the firearm. That's from them, not from me. That was their admission. And then as he picks up the firearm, then we have to go with Andy's testimony. And he's right. If you don't believe what Andy says, if you think Andy is 100% a liar, you can stop right now. Andy's lying. He made it up. This is completely not true. The gun was never pointed at him. He never saw this silver barrel that he only would have seen after he saw Discovery. He never saw it. And then let's take that one step further. Not only that you must believe that he is a liar, you must believe that Rick Chow is the most creative, smartest person in the history of the world. He is clairvoyant, if you will. Let's give him an Oscar. Rick Chow was able to decide, you know what, I want to kill this boy. I need to figure out when he's going to come into the store, when he's going to have a gun, when it's going to be in his pouch. I need to make sure that Andy sees it. And then I need to make sure Andy follows him for the directions. So I need to make sure Andy calls 911.
No, he just always ready. This part is BS. Although this dude is going crazy. He is a hell of an orator. They were not bullshit. But yeah, dude was ready to bust his gun. Rick Chow
Says exactly what I want him to say. I need to make sure Andy says the exact thing that I'm going to say at the exact time. Because that's what it would be necessary to believe the state of South Carolina's case today. That Rick Chow set all this up in motion to execute a shoplifter. The people he decides, needs, has to help him make a living. It doesn't make any sense. And if we take this one step further from the state's theory, Rick Chow is so pissed off, so damn angry about this shoplifter, hates him so much that he executes him. Why not shoot him when he gets out of the store? Gun's already on his hip. Why not walk out of the store? Shoplifter, $1, he stole, shot. Shoplifter, 10 yards, shot. Shoplifter, 20 yards, shot. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110. Why wait 130? Unless something changed. What changed was somebody pulling a gun and pointing it directly at his son. That's what changed.
Woo-wee!
If he wanted to execute Cyrus, he could have done it right outside of that store. But we have to ignore that because that would be part of the rest of the story. use your common sense and listen to the evidence, but listen to the witnesses and listen to what they have told you. Murder, as the state has told you, is the intentional killing of another human being with malice aforethought, without self-defense. We have just showed you self-defense and defense of others. The state has melded a little bit of those theories together, but you need to make sure that you understand, one, without fault and bringing on the difficulty. Again, I've explained to you that you have a legal right to follow somebody. Whether they like what the law is, that's what it is. And as you're going through that, then you have to talk about imminent danger. And this is from the eyes of Andy. And they're trying to mix the two of the...
All right. All I know is Sean Kent is my lawyer from now on. That's what all I need to. This is a terrible, terrible situation, but good lawyers will pull something off. Anyway, I need a break after this.